Hello everyone, this is Sarvesh, lecturer in Civil Engineering, Government Polytechnic, Station Control. The course is Reinforced Concrete Structures, and this lecture is a continuation to the previous lecture, that is Design of T-beams based on limit state method as per IS 456-2000. On completion of this lecture, you are able to know what is the procedure of design of T-beam. That means how to design a T-beam and how to determine the moment of resistance of the T-beam in design, and we'll solve some example problems on design of T-beams as per IS 456-2000, as well as we'll see some part of the uh, problem by using SP60. There is a code for design of concrete structures, that is SP60, right? And we'll solve one numerical problem for better understanding. And before going to discuss today's lecture, just I would like to recap what we were discussed in last class. So in last class, we were solved some example problems, that means different types of problems, right? That means determine based upon the given data, uh, we need to determine the uh, depth of neutral axis. That means you need to determine the moment of resistance, and this moment of resistance is depends on the depth of neutral axis. That means based upon the location of depth of neutral axis, uh, the moment of resistance calculation is three types. That means first one is if the depth of neutral axis is within the flange, so that is it is similar to your rectangular beam, right? That means compression force or tension force into labor arc. And if the depth of neutral axis is within the web, then two cases will rise. That means one is if the uh, stress distribution diagram within the thickness of flange is uniform, right? That means if df by d is less than or equal to 0.2. And another case is if the uh, depth of neutral axis is within the web and the stress distribution, the compression stress distribution along the thickness of flange is not uniform. That means df by d is greater than 0.2. So in all these three cases, how to determine the moment of resistance, we were discussed in last class, and we will solve some example problems also for better understanding, right? So these are the different types, and all these are analysis problems. That means based upon the given data, because the dimensions of the section and properties of the materials is already given. So based upon that, we have calculated the moment of resistance. Now, today we are going to discuss how to design a TB section, right? So there are a little bit different than singly reinforced beam. So the first step is, as usual, is quite similar to the rectangular beams. That means you need to determine the uh, depth of the beam, right, based upon the stiffness criteria. That means you can assume the L effective by D ratio, and based upon that, you can determine the effective depth of the beam. Then you can assume the clear cover and assume the diameter of the tension bar, and you can determine the overall depth, or you can directly assume the effective cover, and you can from that you can determine the overall depth of the beam. What is the overall depth of the beam? So the overall depth of the beam in TB sections is, suppose just, if this is your TB, sorry, and sorry, and this is your tension reinforcement, and the distance from extreme fiber to this center of the tension reinforcement. This will call it as T, effective depth, right? And this is called as PF, that means effective width of the plant. This is thickness of the PW, right? And this is the thickness of slab diaphragm, right? So, based upon the criteria, you can determine the overall depth of the beam, right? So, after determining the overall depth of the beam, so determine the loads to be considered in the design of T-beam. That means dead loads. Dead loads is mainly due to the self-weight of the beam, and live loads. If any floor finishes are there, you can consider the floor loads also, right? So based upon that, you can determine the loads, and by application of partial safety factor for determining the factored load, right? So that partial safety factors for loads can be taken from the IS 456 2000, right? And apply the partial safety factor and determine the factored load, right? So after that, you need to determine the effective width of the plant, right? This is very, very important because as we discussed earlier, so the stress distribution is minimum at the edges and maximum at the center. So for the purpose of analysis, we idealized the stress distribution diagram and decreasing the length of the wave, and that decreasing length we call it as an effective width of the plant, right? So that we need to determine based upon the IS 456 2000 for TV, right? So, and this BF should be calculated from this equation. If you are already, there are two ways to determine. One is the center to center distance between the supports plus BW, and P of F is equal to L naught by 6 plus BW plus 6 into DF. So, whichever is minimum, that should be considered as your effective depth of the plant. What is the center to center distance? Suppose I would like to show in a plant. Suppose this is a slab, continuous slab, and the beam is here, intermediate beam. Suppose. So, in this case, you need to calculate the distance from here to here. How to calculate? Suppose let us say this is x1, this is x2, right, and this is PW. So actual width of the flange is x1 plus PW plus x2, right? And you can calculate the effective width of the flange as per IS code, and whichever is minimum, that should be considered as your effective width of the flange, right? So like this, you need to determine the effective width of the flange. After that, after determining the effective width of the flange, then determine the maximum bending moment due to the factored load. That is, the maximum bending moment for simply supported is WU L square by 8. So WU we already determined based upon the loads coming onto the beam. Then L is the length of the beam, and that's WL square by 8. So from this equation, you can determine the maximum bending. Then Next step is you need to determine the depth of neutral axis. But here we don't know the area of steel in tension zone. So XU depth of neutral axis depth of neutral axis is, we don't know the depth of neutral axis as well as the steel in tension zone. And one more important thing is here we don't know where the depth of neutral axis is located. That means, as I said, that whether it is within the flange or within the web. If it is within the web, another case is whether it is df by d is less than or equal to 2 or the df by d is greater than 0.2. So all these things we don't know. So for determining the uh, instead of calculating the A of ST, we just determine the depth of neutral axis in terms of A of X, A of ST. That means in terms of tension reinforcement, right? So for that also you need to know whether it is within the flange or within the web, right? So for the time being, it is a trial and error method, right? First, I will assume that whether it is a depth of neutral axis is within the flange or within the web. And again, if it is within the web, then whether the stress distribution within the thickness of flange is uniform or it is not. So according to the your assumption, you need to use the appropriate formula and determine the depth of neutral axis in terms of AST, right? So suppose if the depth of, if I am assuming that the depth of neutral axis is within the flange, therefore the compression force equal to tension force is this one. That means 0.36 FCK du into XU equal to 0.87 FR5 to AST. So this is the equation can be used to determine the depth of neutral axis if the depth of neutral axis is within the flange, right? Next case is if I assume that the depth of neutral axis is within the web, right? That means, and there are two cases, whether the stress distribution is uniform within the thickness of flange or not uniform. The first case, if I assume that the depth of neutral axis is within the web and the stress distribution is uniform within the thickness of flange, that means df by d is less than or equal to 1. So for this case, the depth of neutral axis can be determined by equating the compression force equal to tension force. This one. So here the compression force is divided into two parts as we discussed earlier. That is the compression force taken by the web, this one, and the compression force taken by the flange, right? And that should be equal to tension force. So 0.36 FCK/BW plus 0.45 FCK into P of F minus BW into TF is equal to 0.87 F of phi to AS. So from this equation, you can determine the XU in terms of P of S. And another case is if the depth of neutral axis is within the web and the stress distribution along the thickness of flange is not uniform. Not uniform means what? So the stress, suppose, so this is the thickness of flange and the stress distribution, suppose this is somewhere else here in the axis, it is something like this. So up to here, somewhere it is straight, after that it is nothing like this, right? So in this case it is not uniform. So for this case, it is very difficult to determine the compressive force taken by the flange and web separately. So for this, the IS 456-2000 recommended to determine the modified thickness of flange, that is Y of F. right? So as per IS 456-2000, you can calculate the y of f, that is modified thickness of plan, from this equation. What is modified thickness of plan? That means we are determining the thickness, and we are assuming that within this modified thickness, the stress is uniform, right? So that is why uh, you need to determine the modified thickness of plan from this equation. And remember, this is also in terms of x, right? And corresponding to the equation, you can use to determine the depth of metal axis. That is, this and this is more or less similar, except df. Here, instead of using df, you can use yf here, right? So from this equation, you can determine the xc value in terms of a of st, right? So now all are in terms of a of st, right? And determine the area of steel in tension zone by equating the maximum bending moment equal to the bending moment equation corresponding to these three cases, whatever you are assumed. That means if you assume that the bending depth of metal axis is within the flat, then you have to use the compression force into lever arm or tension force into lever arm. Or suppose if you are assumed that the depth of metal axis is within the web and the df by d is point less than or equal to zero point 0.2, then you need to use the corresponding bending moment equation to determine the area of steel. Remember, this is very, very important. Whatever you have assumed here, the corresponding moment of resistance formula should be used to determine the area of steel, right? Yeah, till now we haven't finalized that whether the depth of metal axis is within the flange or within the web. We have assumed it, right? Because here two unknowns. We have a of st is unknown and xt is also unknown, right? So that is why first we determine a of st, right? Corresponding to the according to your assumption, and corresponding moment bending moment equation should be used to determine the area of tension reinforcement, right? And from the bending moment equation, you can determine the A of st, right? So after determining the A of st, after determining the A of st, use that A of st and determine the depth of metal axis, right? And then you need to check whether your assumption is right or wrong. How to check? If suppose if you assume that the depth of metal axis is within the flange, right? That means what is the condition? The depth of your whatever you have calculated, that xu should be less than the thickness of flange, right? If it is less than the thickness of flange, therefore your assumption is right. Then you can go for further steps. That means whatever you are calculating A of st and whatever the equation you are used for determining the xu, everything is right because the condition is right. Your assumption is right, right? Suppose if you assume that the depth of metal axis is the plan, but after determining the xu, it is greater than the df. That means your assumption is wrong. Then what you have to do is, then again you need to determine whether d of f by d is less than or equal to zero point 0.2 or greater than zero point 0.2. If it is less than 0.2, again go to here and use this equation to determine the xt value and determine the depth of metal axis in terms of A of st, right? Then in terms of A of st, you can determine the values. So after that, you can determine the A of ST, and corresponding A of ST values you can determine the uh, X, right? And then again you need to check whether it is satisfying the our assumption or not. And if the depth of neutral axis is within the web and df by d is greater than 0.2, then you need to uh, uh, use the you need to modify your thickness of plan, and corresponding to that you need to determine the depth of neutral axis and A of S, right? So this is how you need to determine this one. So after that, now you got the uh, area of steel required, and determine the maximum area of steel and minimum area of steel as per the IS 456 2000, right? And based upon that, if as per the condition is the required AST, that means area of steel, should be less than the maximum reinforcement and greater than the minimum reinforcement, right? So if this condition is satisfied, then you can go for further step. That means you can assume the diameter of the bars and determine the number of steel, and you can provide the steel bars, right? Suppose if the condition is not satisfied, that means if the area of steel required is less than the AST minimum as per codal provision, then what you have to do? Again, you need to uh, equate. That means your required steel is less than the minimum, then you can provide the minimum steel. Suppose if it is your required steel is greater than the maximum, then you need to redesign your section. So this is the process of design of T-beam, right? So if you solve a example problem for better understanding, right? So we will see one example problem on design of T-beams, so that you will get a clear understanding how to design the T-beams based upon the given data. So example problem: a beam, a T-beam floor consists of 150 thick RCC slab constructed monolithic with 300 wide beam. The beams are spaced at a distance of 3.5 meters center to center. Sorry. And their effective span is 6 meters. If the superimposed load on the slab is 5 kilonewton per meter square, design an intermediate T-beam. Use M20 grade concrete and Fe 415 steel. So here the effective span is 6 meters. So if you see here, we're going to discuss. So this is a continuous slab, and the beams are placed at a distance of 3.5 meters center to center distance of the beam, right? And the effective span is 6 meters, and the width of the beam is 300 mm. That is, this is 300 mm, and thickness of slab is 150 mm, right? So this is a given data, right? This is a plan showing with the different spacing of the beams, and anything is, yeah, width of the beam is 300 mm. So what is the first step? You need to determine the depth of the T-beam, right, based on the stiffness factor. So here generally we will take the we will assume that the depth of the beam is in the range of L by 12 to L by 50. This is only the assumption. You can choose based upon your experience, right? So here I am assuming that the depth, effective depth is equal to L by 15. So my L is 6000 by 15, that is equal to 400 mm. Therefore, assuming that the effective effective clear cover is 50 mm. So therefore, the overall depth is 450, right? So for the TB, so overall depth is from here to overall depth is 450 mm. Now determine the loads on the beam. So the dead load of the slab, that means self weight of the slab per meter square is the thickness of slab, that is 0.15 to 35, that is the unit weight of RCC, is equal to 3.75 kilonewtons per meter square. And the live load on the slab is 5 kilonewton per meter square. And the total load on the slab is 8.75 kilonewton meter square. This is per meter square, and you need to determine per load from the slab per meter run of the beam. That means if the beam is the, you need to consider see here. So while designing this beam, you have to transfer the 50% of load of up to, so up to 50% of this span and up to 50% of this span. This total load is going to this beam, and this is right. So for this, what is the length will come? This is center to center distance is 3.5 and 3.5. So this is 3.5 by 2 plus VW plus 3.5 by 2. That will come in as 3.5. So if you multiply that length center to center distance, then you will get the load per meter run of the beam, right? So that is 8.75 into 3.5, that is 30.3 kilonewton per meter square. So this is for slab, right? So this I can take it as this is 30.63 kilonewton meters, right? Not per meter square, because we are already multiplied with the length, right? So next is the self weight of the beam, that is also you need to consider. So here two parts are there. One is the slab, and other one is slab, and other one is beam, right? So here we have calculated the self weight of the slab. Now you need to add the self weight of the beam. So that means beam means only you need to add the bottom part, because top parts we already calculated, that is only slab. So only you need to take web weight. Web is 0.3 into this distance, overall distance minus thickness of your flat. You will get this. That is 0.3 into 0.3 into 1 into 25. You will get 2.25 kilonewton meters. Right. So this is the self weight of the beam. Then add both the things, you will get the total load, that is 32.88 kilonewton meters, right? This is kilonewton meters, not per meter square. So this is 32.8 kilonewton meter, and apply the partial safety factor to determine the factored load. So for live and dead loads, the partial safety factor for load as per IS 456 is 1.5. So if you apply this, you will get it as 49.32 kilonewton per. So this is the total factor load on the beam, right? Next is, so use the bending moment equation to determine the maximum bending moment. So for simply supported, the maximum bending moment is WL square by 3. And substitute the values, that is 49.32 into 6 square, not 8, it is 6 square by 8, you will get 221.94 kilonewton meters. So this is the maximum bending moment in the peak, right? After this, you need to determine the effective depth of the flange, right? So the effective depth of the flange is can be calculated from this equation, that is P of F equal to L naught by 6 plus AW plus 6 into D of F. To substitute the values, that is 6000 by 6 plus 300 plus 6 into 150. We get 2200, and this should be less than the the that center to center distance. That means BW plus 3.5 by 2 plus 3.5. So it is less than this one. Therefore, you can use P of F equal to 2200 mm, right? So after determining the depth, effective width of the flange, then you need to determine the area of steel or um, area of steel. So to determine the area of steel, you need to determine the depth of metal, right? So before starting, we don't know where the depth of metal axis is placed. So as I told earlier, so you need to assume whether it is within the flange or within the bed, right? So for the time being, for easy calculation, I would like to assume that the depth of the flange, depth of the neutral axis is within the flange, right? So if the depth of neutral axis is within the flange, and this is the compression force and this is the tension force, and equate compression force equal to tension force, we will get the depth of neutral axis in terms of AST. Here, AST is also unknown, right? So you will get the AST value. I think here something is, this is 0.36 FCK XU into BW. You don't forget this. Here another term is BW will come, right? This is BW. So from this equation, you can determine the depth of neutral axis in terms of area of steel, right? Therefore, if after determining this one, so equate the maximum bending moment corresponding to your assumption, because here, here we are assuming that the depth of neutral axis is within the flange. Therefore, you need to use the corresponding equation to determine the moment of resistance, right? So this can be determined by multiplying with the compression force into lever arm or tension force into lever arm, right? So the compression force, this is similar to your rectangular beams. So equate the tension force into lever arm or compression force into lever arm to determine the A of ST. So here I am using the tension force into lever arm, that means 0.87 F of Y into AST within brackets D minus 0.42 X. So substitute the values in this equation. It is 221.94 into 10 power 6 is equal to 0.87 into 415 into A of ST into 400 minus 0.42 into 0.0228 A of ST. If you simplify the equation from this, you will get the A of ST. So from this equation, I got the tension reinforcement A of ST is 1597.9 mm square. Right. So from this, again, this should be checked with corresponding to the maximum AST and minimum AST, right? So the maximum AST is, for beams, it should not be greater than 4% of BD, right? And the minimum AST can be determined as per IS 456 2000. And the condition is the required area of tension reinforcement should be greater than the minimum reinforcement and less than the maximum reinforcement. So after checking that it is satisfying the conditions, therefore you can calculate the depth of neutral axis based upon the previous equation, that is in terms of A of ST. Substitute this A of ST and determine the your depth of neutral axis. So here I got 34.4 mm, and you need to check whether your assumption is right or wrong. How to check? So your depth of neutral axis. So for here I have assumed that the depth of neutral axis is within the flange. So therefore your depth of neutral axis is less than the thickness of flange, then it is our assumption is right. If it is greater than the thickness of flange, therefore our assumption is wrong. So here my depth of neutral axis is 36.4 mm and thickness of flange is 150 mm. Therefore 36.4 mm is less than the thickness of flange, right? So therefore my assumption is right, right? So I can proceed for further calculation. Remember, this is very important. 2 points you should remember. One is, based upon your assumption, corresponding equation should be used to determine the bending moment, to determine the ARST. And we need to use the corresponding bending moment equation to determine the ARST, right? That is first case. And one more thing is, after determining the A of ST, again you need to calculate the actual depth of neutral axis, and the corresponding value should be checked whether your assumption is right or wrong by comparing with your thickness of flange, right? So here my assumption is right, and whatever I have done the calculations, everything is right. Suppose if my assumption is wrong, then whatever the calculation I have done till now is wrong. Again, you need to take the corresponding equation to determine the depth of neutral axis and calculate in terms of AST, and corresponding your assumption, use the appropriate bending moment equation to determine the A of ST and find out A of ST, and again that should be checked with maximum and minimum. If it is satisfied, and corresponding to that AST, determine the XU, and again you need to compare it, right? This is a repetitive process. So after satisfying the conditions, I have calculated the area of steel, right? Then, so this is the calculation of minimum AST, right? So that is 0.85 W by F of y into T. If you substitute the values, you will get 0.85, 300 into 400 by 415. This is 245.8, and this is less than the AST provided. So therefore, the condition is satisfied, right? So therefore, next you can assume the and maximum AST is, as I told, that this 4% of BD. Here B is nothing but the width of the beam, right? T is nothing but total overall depth of the beam. And here I got the maximum tension reinforcement is 5400, and this is greater than the area provided or required. So therefore, both conditions are satisfied. So I can provide whatever the area of steel, I got it from the bending moment equation. So from the for that I can assume that the diameter of the bars is 16 mm bars, right? and I can determine the number of bars. How can we determine the number of bars? That means small AST, total overall AST by area of single bar. Here I am assuming as a 16 mm diameter bar. Therefore, you will get the number of bars. So here I got the number of bars of 8 bars, 16 mm diameter. So therefore, provide 8 numbers of 16 mm diameter bars as area of tension reinforcement, and this area of tension reinforcement provided is 1608.5 mm square. Right? So like this, you have to determine the area of steel required, and you can design the T-beam. And there is this is all about the design of T-beams by limit state method as per IS 456 2000. Right? This is how you can design your area of steel. There is another method. It is a simplified method by using the SP60. Is another code. Simply, as per the table number 2 of SP60, there are different a lot of tables are there that are based upon the percentage of steel and mu by BD square. If you calculated the mu value corresponding to mu by BD square, right? So here BD is nothing but P of F, that is effective width of the flange. So here you got the mu by BD square equal to 0.60. And from the SP16 code, this is also allowed to use in the design of RCC structures, right? And from table number 2, SP60, read out the values of percentage of reinforcement corresponding to F of Y and FCK20. So if there is a table which is given the percentage, it will give the percentage of steel required corresponding to this mu by BD square and whatever the grade of steel you are using and whatever the grade of concrete. So based upon these three values, it can be used, right?